I hope you're ready for a big NHL hour. We've got one of the biggest names in Calgary sports media here. Let's put the camera on him right now. Ryan Leslie from Sportsnet Flames. Happy summer, Ryan.
Happy summer to you.
You enjoying it?
Loving it, yeah.
Good.
Just out in Invermere for the weekend. Got into a little boat and water weekend. It was wonderful. How about you? You're everywhere, man.
That was the intro. That was all the places, by the way, that this show airs on television on Game Plus TV.
Yeah.
I've never been to Vermont, Maine, the two places. I haven't been there.
Okay.
But just about everywhere else. I'm enjoying Calgary. I'm getting ready for the hockey season. I always like talking hockey, as do you. And, I'm just loving life. And I just want to say this. Breaking news today. It's sad on two fronts. Bobby Baun from Lanigan, Saskatchewan, passing away at the age of 86, scored a goal in the 1964 Stanley Cup playoffs, to force Game 7 for the Leafs against Detroit, which they would go on to win the Stanley Cup. Bobby Baun, legend, passing today at the age of 86. Other two Lanigan legends, Todd Strube, Oilers alum, and John Keane, the voice of the Kamloops Blazers. And we're told that at 1 p.m. today, Victor Cui will be announced as being fired as president of the Edmonton Elks. We'll cover that a little more with Kevin the Medium a little later on.
Hey, just on on the topic of some loss, boy, and it's inevitable. We're at a certain age, but we are losing legends.
I know.
In the sports world, in the music world, in the entertainment world. We just lost Robbie Robertson, and there are just so many big names, either a part of our youth, adulthood. The fact that they've been a part of whatever lore it is, and it's a real eye opener. I think almost on a daily basis for a lot of us when we see these big names. And losing them, and it's a time in a lot of our lives where we are losing legends.
You and I are
a tough one.
Getting into an age bracket, which incidentally I looked up the other day. You're 6 months younger than me, so there you go.
It shows.
You're leaner.
What?
It's. Okay,
you look a good 6 months younger than me.
You know Corey Osmack.
I've heard of him. Another bald brother.
Yeah, Flames trainer. I was out at their house, and his wife. We were dressed similarly.
Name drop. You and JSB are just full of them.
We were dressed similarly.
Yeah.
And his wife turned and hugged me, and she's like, "Oh, I thought you were Corey. You're built exactly the same as Corey." Then he goes, "I'm leaner."
She's lovely.
Yeah, she's the best.
We're going to see him soon. The season around the corner. Those trainers who do a bang-up job. He and Deep Pasquale for Calgary, those guys, and Benny Dumaine, they put in the work. But Corey's been there a long time.
They don't take many days off in the summer, let alone, and not like you and Kelly Rudy. You guys just have the life. Speaking of LA, the flair.
Whoa.
Listen, Rudy was here.
Yeah, he checks in and does the entire playoff run. So
fair.
Good
point.
Guy works hard.
I'm not trashing the guy. I love him.
I just don't want anybody to misinterpret.
You got to stop worrying what other people think. Or maybe I need to start worrying more about what other people think. But I said to Rudes, when do you get going? He's like, October.
Rudes.
Yeah, we're buddy. We're tight.
Rudes. Never call him that.
I do. He said October for him. When do you get going?
Yeah, we don't do any preseason broadcasting, but I'll be at the Dome for camp and everything else in mid-September. So it's around the corner, but no broadcast until, the season's for real.
The guy's been good enough to come down here today to talk NHL, and we will get into Flame stuff. Chad is watching in Lethbridge. Just pause this question. Just remember it, because he says, nice to hear Ryan grew up a Habs fan. What's his take on the club for this year? Is Casey DeSmith the new number one in La Belle Province? As a matter of fact, go ahead and answer.
I don't know if he is. But he may be at some point over the course of the year as to who moves out. Maybe he challenges. Maybe he is a clear cut. At this point, I don't know if he's that, and I could be dead wrong. But it feels like he's insurance. It feels like he might be, coming in to take over. We'll see how that one plays out. But hey, it's a solid veteran ad. Keeps it good between the pipes.
They've had quite a few through there since Carey Price.
And they need a little stability. But I don't know, though, Roddy, if they have their true number one. They've been blessed for years to have a clear-cut number one. That isn't the case anymore.
How much difference would it have made if one of these guys had stepped up and been the guy since Carey left?
Tough to walk in the shadow.
How big of a problem's goaltending been, is my point, with Montreal? How big of a problem's goaltending been since the Stanley Cup run?
I'm one of those believers that sometimes the goalie can mask some certain things.
Of course.
So I think their goaltending, to be honest, has been just fine considering where the rest of the group is, because you can look at a lot of examples where the goalie covers up a lot of problems when maybe you should have rebuilt. Maybe you should have tore down, but that goalie kept you in some things, i.e. Kiprusoff.
Oh, yeah.
Was that maybe the biggest close-to-home clear-cut example? That guy was sensational, and he made a lot of problems go away on a lot of nights.
From Dan in Saskatoon writes in, he says, Corey Osmak, Nipawin Hawks legend, first ever Nipawin player drafted by an NHL team picked by the Hartford Whalers. Did you know that? You must have known that. You know everything.
I mean, I'm not from Saskatchewan, but yes, I work with Corey. I know what...
They love him.
Story.
They love him in Nipawin.
I believe he and Brad Pascal, the AGM of the Flames, were both drafted in the same year. I can't remember.
But not by the same team.
No, but I don't believe so.
He's got a big Whalers jersey framed in his house with his name and number on it.
Yeah.
I love it. He's such a great guy. Love him. Long time. People writing you with CFL questions. I know you missed the memo near the end of hour 2. Mm-hmm. We're talking NHL for the first 40 minutes of hour 2. CFL questions will not be addressed. Thanks for playing. Please hold on to your bingo cards. You talked to the general manager of the Calgary Flames today.
Yeah, Craig Conroy and I had a little conversation. He's been busy, as you can imagine, Roddy. And just every day for every GM, it's go, go, go. Well, imagine being a first-year GM, knowing that you've got, I believe it's now 6 guys entering their final year of their contracts with the club. And you're on the job. And he's been an AGM for a while, and he has played over 1,000 games as a player. He knows how it works. Now It's for real. And he knows that there are other GMs trying to take advantage of his newness. But he wants to make the right deal. He moved out Tyler Toffoli in a move that I think most people will see in time. That made some sense. But now he's got some real big decisions to make, doesn't he? When you're talking Elias Lindholm, Noah Hannafin, you're also talking about Michael Backlund. What's the trickle-down effect for guys like Chris Tanev, Zadora? So there are some names out there that have to be dealt with. The cap is where it is. The market is where it is. These are the dog days of summer if you're a GM, because most GMs are finally, and I mean only finally now, getting a little time off. There's a little window in there that, that beginning mid-August before the end of the month comes. So you've got a couple of weeks there total where it's probably everybody's just gone to the lake. The phone's quiet before it picks up again. So it has been quiet, but he's still grinding it out.
Was it overblown, the amount of players that supposedly wanted out of here? I saw a report somewhere that said, this isn't correct. I think Pierre LeBrun said it. These guys don't all want out. This is falsely reported.
Well, it's not that they want out. It is that they're not. The communication is such, and the relationship with Conroy and the city is such that it's very positive. This is not a negative. This is just, it's not we want out. This, during the Sutter thing, there was some legitimate rumblings and grumblings that, we're done here. Now it's kind of gone, and it's continued in that they just don't want to re-sign. So wanting out, and they're not going to re-sign that big ticket, I look at that as a little bit different. I'm sure that's up for debate, but they've still got one more year left in their deal, and they're going to honor it, provided it's not like they're going to stay at home and not come back to Calgary. Like, I know Noah Hannafin and others are going to return to Calgary, play like pros, try and win games, which will only suit them. So this is not we're not happy. This is, we've just got a big long-term contract, we hope, coming up for ourselves. So where do I want to spend that? Where do I want to make my family come to? You work your entire career for this opportunity. I don't begrudge a player for saying, I finally have some say. I've earned the opportunity to get here, and now I want to have a little bit of say of where I end up, a little bit.
I think kind of what I was thinking was that I know how dirty of a business this is, and that somebody might have put out there that all these Flames players want out. And then I get the sense that that's not true, right?
Well,
and that's what I was asking.
Yeah, I mean, look, the players that are informing Craig Conroy that they're not going to re-sign, or the players that are not re-signed beyond next season, the dialogue is there. The relationship is there. It's just a business scenario.
You mentioned all that's on Craig Conroy's plate. The first was hiring a head coach.
Yeah.
And he's going to be sitting in that chair tomorrow when Ryan Huska is, and you've been working with him a long time.
Good name, good haircut, good guy.
He's part of that club.
Yeah, he is. And, I think you're going to have a really nice conversation with him. You're going to walk out of here going, I learned some things. I really like his philosophy, his approach. He's a gentleman. He's a pro. He's a communicator. A lot like, and I've said this before, a lot like maybe that favorite teacher you had where you went to the wall for him because you just got a lot of respect for him. And I do, and I think anybody who has had any interaction with him feels the same.
I just feel like he's let his personality out since he got this job more. Because as an assistant, particularly with the strong personalities he's been working for, he wasn't allowed to show who he was.
He's always, if you talk to players about him, Roddy, they'll tell you everyone in that room was pulling for him to get that gig. Everyone of them. And they got no beef with Ryan Huska, that's for sure. And there's not many people who do. His resume is impressive. He as an individual is impressive. And I really hope it translates into some success for him as a young coach who deserved this shot.
Well, you talk about the Flames enough, and I do want to move on to some other things. But if we all knew it was a talented team, we could all see that. But there was a problem. And if it was the coach, then hopefully the ship turns and they have...
Well, you need some bounce backs. The reality is, Huska's got to find a way to unlock some guys. And there'll be some guys playing guilty, which is never a bad thing. Guys like Jonathan Huberdeau and Nazem Kadri know they have to be better. And this scenario of contracts has to be, figured out. What kind of a hand is Huska going to have come camp? And if so, all right, what are we talking about in December, February, trade deadline? What does it look like? Are they buyers? Are they sellers? Do they have a young team like, Craig wants to infuse into his lineup? There's a lot of interesting questions and scenarios that will play out over time. Not here in mid-August right now, but we'll have answers as we go.
I will get to the viewers and audience questions next segment if we can. We have some time left in this one, and I wanted to look around the NHL. Something's burning in my mind that I know you can answer. With Patrice Bergeron retiring in Boston, and now Krejci, the loss or the trading away of Taylor Hall, the loss of Bertuzzi in free agency, is the rebuild starting in Boston?
That's a great question. It might be a retool, and I don't want to split hairs on you, but I wonder if Boston... they've still got some talent. I don't see them burning it down to the ground. I don't know if you do, but I look at them as kind of retooling on the fly a little bit. They've still got some pieces. They've still got a great culture there, but those are significant subtractions. They bring in a culture guy like Luch. That's not alone going to get it done, but that's certainly going to feel good to the fan base and certainly to that individual. But they've got some work to do. They've got some holes to fill, and I think that's a team that will retool. I don't think they're in rebuild mode right now. Again, could be wrong, but it just doesn't feel that way in Boston.
Not at all. And those are two players, the recently retired ones, that spent their whole careers in Boston, which tells me they didn't want to leave Boston, and they didn't want them to leave Boston. No. But the fans are panicking there in the media. Oh, my God, how are we going to replace them?
Well, they're not. I mean, that's significant.
They're pillars.
They panic anywhere if you take that kind of beef out of the lineup. And, they have so much respect. They have such great resumes. They have such a relationship and tie-in with that community. It was interesting. Last year... we've got to go to break.
Nope. Good 2 minutes. Thanks for asking.
I was wandering around. I was going to some shop in Boston in the morning, and I had a chance. I ran into Milan, and he and his family insisted that we do the North End tour together, where they used to live and all these areas. And I'll tell you, Roddy, even then, he won it in 2011.
Yeah.
And he'd been away for so long. Every time we turned around, somebody's coming out of a store. Hey, Luch, how you doing? So it was really cool. That's a really neat relationship that he has with that city. He could still run for mayor there. They used to have this great sports bar in Boston. I don't know if you or your viewers have ever heard of it, but it was called the Fours. And it was just outside the TD Garden. It shut down during COVID, but inside was like a hall of fame of all things Boston. So anything Celtics, you had Larry Bird jerseys, you had everything from the Red Sox, you had everything Patriots and Tom Brady on the wall, and there was a great picture of Milan Lucic on this table. I showed it to him, and he said only legends live there, and it's true. He is a part of that fabric and that culture. I'm ecstatic for he and his family to be going back. I hope it works. I know he could have got term elsewhere. He loved his relationship and his time with and in Calgary. And I know everybody will be rooting for him. He's still the toughest guy in the league, and I know he's going to want to try and improve some things. But as far as the Boston thing, time will tell, but it feels like a retool. You take those two legends out of the lineup, that's significant, and they expect a certain level there. And I don't have a problem with a standard being set for an organization, and they have one.
They'll replace those guys eventually. Bergeron's jersey's going to the rafters. There's talk over whether Krejci's will or not. That's how good they are. The Cask and Flagon is the bar I remember in Boston. That's the one right across the street from the Green Monster. Oh. Yeah, you've been here a long time. You've been here longer than anywhere you've ever been, I think. Close?
Been here since '96. How about that?
How about that?
and still here. Big Calgary guy. We're going to have you at Packwood Grand next summer, I think, eh?
Oh.
Have him ride a horse around the thing. Yeah, there you go.
Done.
See, we're making miracles happen here on
just
the
makes
RP
things
show.
happen.
Yes, I connect people. That's what I do. People are writing in. I said that we would turn it over to the audience. And before we talk about Ali's Dallas Stars, the Chicago Blackhawks. How big of a step up do you think they're going to take with
They've added some pieces to
the holy child around him?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I don't look at him as the savior there, but I do look at the fact that they're trying to surround him with some players, Taylor Hall and others, and Foligno's a character guy. They're trying to create a culture there. Who knows how long those players are going to stay? I don't want to say that those guys are there long term. We don't know that. But right now, it's nice to see them instantly add a few paces, make the player in Bedard feel a little bit more, okay, all right, because they didn't have much there, as we all know, and they needed to turn things around. They've had a hard couple of years. They just lose Rocky, and certainly, with everything that's gone on behind the scenes, it has been so terribly unfortunate. So, pardon me, they got to turn things around. They got a good piece there to do it.
Playoff team this year? No, not close.
No.
But they have a long way to go.
Sure, but that's what happens when you take it down to the studs, right? And I think that's what had to happen in Chicago. That's how it feels. So, I think they're going to turn things around. They're going to make people kind of get excited again. We did a game there this year, and it was really weird for me to see, just the decline. And I understand all of the elements. But, boy, that was tough because that's a great city, that's a great building, and that's a proud fan base with a great anthem.
They've had 3 Stanley Cups in a decade. They can.
That sets the tone, though, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to go backwards.
Josh says, will any rookies have a chance of upsetting Bedard as the Rookie of the Year this year? And if I may just go first, that's what's fun about watching it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't get into the prediction game, but certainly this kid is good. He's solid. It's not like you're sitting there going, he's got to put on a little more muscle. This kid's jacked. I think, not quite Marty St. Louis, but he's got some trunks on him. He's got some...
He's thick.
Got some... Yeah, he does. He is.
Taller than Martin St. Louis as well. But for Ali, the Stars fan, they have the General Manager of the Year in Jim Neal, and it just feels like they're always around it.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good way of putting it. They're always around it. They're always in the hunt. They've got some veterans. They've got some young studs. And they're finding guys, right? They're finding young players to fill those seams and eventually take over when the Sagans and the Bens are gone, who have had resurgences, individually. They've bounced back, those guys, at various times. I really like the pieces there. Like Jim Nill and company have done a nice job down there. That's a good hockey organization. I know you're familiar with it. I'm familiar. I always like going there.
I was going to ask you about that next.
Some organization you just go to and but I love going there, covering games. Their players have some personality. They have talent. It's a great city. It's one of the best cities in the league too.
We've talked about this, not with you, but on this show, where my dad would come back from Dallas. We worked for 26 years for the Stars, and he would be laughing. And this was in the 90s, at how little they knew about hockey there. How is it now? You were just there in the playoffs,
yeah,
right?
I covered games 1 and 2 between the Stars and the Kraken in round 2. It's interesting you say, because, your dad would have a real feel for it, but you think about the roots of Texas hockey and those minor leagues. And, Brad Treliving was involved in some of those as well, in management and creating leagues and building rinks and, really a part of that foundation that is Texas hockey. And they're proud of it.
Yeah.
And it's grown, it's evolved organically the right way. Blake Coleman's a product of Texas hockey. He used to go to those Stars games with his grandmother. He's an NHLer and, from the state of Texas. So I'm not saying, watch for the influx of, Texas hockey players, but the game is alive and well down there at various levels.
At one time, there were more pro hockey teams in the state of Texas than all of Canada.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore, but
No.
at the time it was. And the thing is, my dad was very similar. I'd like to think to me, or I'm similar to him, that he would go sit in the crowd. Most scouts would sit upstairs, right?
Yeah,
but
of
he'd
course.
sit in the crowd and just listen to what everybody was saying around him.
That's great.
Right? And he would come back and tell me
That
about
is awesome.
Speaking of awesome, for our Cats and Bolts podcast where we cover Florida hockey, the Panthers and the Lightning, can I put this to you, Ryan Leslie
Sweatshirt.
of Sportsnet? Who's going to have the better year, points-wise, or go further in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Tampa Bay Lightning or Florida Panthers this year, do you think?
Well, that is a really good loaded question.
That's what I do.
How about that?
I'm going to say Tampa. I just don't like betting against John Cooper and company. Now, maybe their window is closing. Maybe they're on the other side of the... I don't know. It's a good question. I think, Florida's run, Roddy, you got to factor. That's a deep run and what it took out of them physically, mentally. That's a lot of hockey to come up just that short. They got to pick themselves up off the mat. They have the players to do it. But Tampa's hungry again. They don't like early exits, or they don't like not going the distance. That's a proud group over there. John Cooper's got my respect in so many levels. His staff just dialed. And they got a proud group of players who might feel they have one more real deep run in them. But we'll see, because there's some youth in Florida with the Cats. And there's some, maybe we got a taste of it now. We want more. We'll see. It'll be fascinating to see if they can pick themselves up off the mat and say, we might as well run it back and finish the job, finish what we started. They got a lot of momentum. I'd be happy to be wrong in this case. It just feels like I can't bet against John Cooper. Not right now.
It's a great debate. And by the way, I'm not going to bring the video up in a year when you're wrong. I'm not the kind of guy that would do that to you.
No, you are.
Allie in Texas says, let's go Panthers. Your boy Matthew Tkachuk, which, by the way, until Lionel Messi showed up, might be the most popular athlete in South Florida, and I'm not joking.
No, I know. He's up there.
That would be hard for you to not
Butler,
say
Chucky.
Panthers, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, he'll never see this, so we're safe. Nobody will, so we're safe.
How about that?
No, you know what?
Now you're backtracking, you're rethinking it.
No, not at all. He's healthy.
Yeah. I hope he is.
Healthier.
Tough end
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah, that was a tough one. So, yeah, and Sam Bennett, been around that kid since he was drafted as well. Montour's from an area just outside my hometown.
Is that right?
Yeah. He's from Southern Ontario. And I just loved watching him take another step in his career. Love watching that kid play this postseason. I really like the Florida Panthers.
Monty.
Yeah, I really like, and you know what? I can't leave out Ryan Lomberg, who I know who will just fight
The
anybody.
Lamborghini.
I love that kid. I do. So, I've got a lot of more personal connections with the Florida Panthers, and they could very well prove me wrong, and that'd be great if they did. Pull the video next year.
Colin in Ottawa says, man, please stop crying for the Blackhawks. Jeepers. When is the last time you cried for Buffalo or Columbus? Two teams that haven't made the playoffs in ages. I don't think he's talking to you.
I was going to say, was I crying?
I don't think he was
enough.
at all.
But hey, he brings up a good point with Buffalo. And who was the other team he was talking about?
Columbus.
Oh,
Babs. Which, incidentally, Ryan Huska will now mark two NHL head coaches that we'll have had on the show this summer. Mike Babcock being the other, Husk, and then I'm planning to get Pomo next month in Florida. But how about Mike Babcock in Columbus? How do you think that's going to play
I think
out?
it's needed. I think he needs a chance to prove himself as a coach and a person. I think that team needs to be proving to their fan base that there's more there. They've got some work to do on the roster. I get that, but they've got a couple of pieces, and they need to prove that they aren't where they've kind of been hanging around. So, yeah, I wonder, like everybody else, what that fit is going to be like. We'll be watching Columbus Blue Jackets games more than ever, won't we? As an outsider, as a fan base, as a media market, I think they'll get a little bit more attention, understandably, what with his past and ties to Toronto. So people will always keep an eye on that. In the West, people are always watching Johnny Gaudreau, either to see what he's doing or, chance
Laine's there.
Laine,
Cole Sillinger.
He's polarizing. So, yeah, they'll be worth keeping an eye on.
Reasons to watch.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, speaking of, the biggest Vancouver Canucks fan I know, and I don't know many.
Dan Murphy?
No.
Okay.
Kevin the Medium over there. Yeah, we had Brendan Batchelor on last week of your network family, the radio voice.
Excellent.
From Sportsnet 650. And even he said, he's very honest in his assessment of the Canucks. He's like, they're going to be better, but will they be better enough to get into the playoffs? We've seen this movie before. They had the great ending under Gabby and fired him.
Yeah.
What did you see out of the Canucks with Tocchet? And will it continue, do you think?
I'm probably going to agree with him, with Brendan, because, I mean, he's around it every day, but just from an outsider standpoint, I like the fact that maybe you have a little bit more time for Tocchet to dig in and maybe make his coaching, his philosophy, his identity a little bit more ingrained. I don't see them taking a huge step up, but again, I want to see some bounce back from some players over there. And that pride thing is a real thing, and it's one thing to have a step back, but can you bounce back? And there's some players over there that would be the first to tell you that. So, yeah, I don't expect a massive leap and be world beaters. No problem if I'm wrong with that either, because they do have talent. They have talent there too. And I bet you they'll beat teams on some nights, but it's been tough sledding there for a while.
Oh, I know. And Tocchet, if anybody will get him working,
this league,
it's him. Yeah.
Like,
no kidding,
that's
right?
cliche, but you don't have to look far for an example.
And when you're saying win, not just the Stanley Cup, it's hard to make the playoffs, to win any given night.
That's why, say what you want about players that you think didn't show up in the postseason, okay? A lot of players face a lot of, criticism and scrutiny. He didn't do it. He's a great regular season. You got to get in. And then you got to take another step.
It's another season after that.
You need guys who make sure you get in. And it's just so bloody hard to win hockey games and get into the postseason and go on a deep run, and you tip your cap to those who do it consistently.
Well, we have 2 minutes, maybe 3. You consistently are on Flames broadcasting, hitting your marks. I'm very impressed by that. So in this time, we can't do a show in Alberta and not talk about the Oilers. Like, this is my 3rd summer here, and every day for the last 2, it was who's better, Flames or Oilers? Oilers or Flames? I don't hear it at all this summer, because how can you?
Yeah.
It's not a question.
Well,
right? Is that going to continue this year?
I think the Oilers know who they are right now, and I think the Calgary Flames are trying to figure out who and what they are right now. And I think that's the fairest way we can put it. The Oilers are a very, very good hockey club.
Yeah.
And they know who they are. They might know what tweaking they need. I think their goaltending is going to be better. I think their blue line needs a little bit of help. But other than that, they know who and what they are. So there's some questions around Calgary and Vancouver and Winnipeg, and that's fair. It's not just one team. You look in the Canadian West, there's a lot of question marks right now. But the Oilers are a team that knows who they are, what they are, where they're at in their window, and they have time like everybody else to make a couple of tweaks or improvements. I think they're a dangerous hockey club.
What a great place to be if you're an Oilers fan. Just some small fine-tuning.
Yeah, that's a really neat, because you're still excited like everybody else about additions.
Yeah.
Not like, we got our team, we're good. No, there's a little, and I think their goaltending will be better than last year. I think they will improve just with the guys they have.
With a little age, yeah. We were talking about Skinner, not Jack Campbell per se, right?
Both could be better, however it goes, but I think both will be all right. And again, we talk about pride, we talk about bouncing back years, and I don't think they're any different over there. So, that's a dangerous hockey club.
Ryan Leslie, you are one of the greats. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Wow.
But thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, it's a wonderful spot. We're very happy here. Yeah, thank you, pal.
And best of luck down south.
Yeah, can't wait for that too.
We'll see you
All
down
is
there.
good.
We'll see you there.
Ryan Leslie from Sportsnet Flame. I got to look up the calendar. November 12th, Bedard's there. I haven't looked into the Flames. I
we're
think
there
it's late. It's
maybe
March.
March?
Yeah, it's later. Yeah.
I'll bring some
I'll
shorts.
have the house clean for you.
If you could.
Yeah.